Let's move on to something different, which is really happening in the other parts of the world, because today we have a lot of news for you. Burkina Faso rejects proposal to accept deportees from the US. So you see, Burkina Faso's leader currently is Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Now, last year, Donald Trump won the 2024 elections in the United States of America. When he won, one of his greatest campaign messages was to basically tackle immigration. So immigration is basically people moving from another country to your country. And in this case, people were migrating from their country of origin to the United States of America. And Trump has said over the years that immigration under his predecessor, Joe Biden, had collapsed the economy. It has grown to levels not seen before. And at the end of the day, these were things which were hindering the country's growth, from job creation to dependence on minimal resources. All of these things Donald Trump used as a campaign message, and ultimately he won. Because according to polls that came in, he showed that one of the key messages or one of the key issues on Americans that basically they used as a stepping stone, as a yardstick to vote in last year's election was the issue of the economy, was the issue of immigration, was issue of the escalating wars in the Middle East and the Russia-Ukraine war. So Trump won on that accord. But then Trump came to power and he was thinking that there was perhaps people who were in power during his first tenure in office. That was way back from 2016 to 2020. The same people are in power. Times have changed. Burkina Faso's president have been dethroned. A coup d'etat had happened, and there was a new person who is in charge. The new person in charge was Captain Ibrahim Traoré, and he does not align with the ideologies of the West. Because this one, when he came to power, he successfully pushed back against French or France. So currently in Burkina Faso, France has no foothold in Burkina Faso. Their troops have been dispelled. The France or the French embassy have been closed down. The relations or bilateral relations between France and Burkina Faso have deteriorated to levels not seen before. So Trump believed that, it's the old thing, receive deportees, will sanction. If you don't receive deportees, will sanction you, will block you. But then times have changed, and the new captain in power, Ibrahim Traoré, does not recognize those things again. So when Trump came to power, he started deporting people, and one particular person whose name was Abrego Garcia, who was recently deported to El Salvador, and then he appealed and came back to the USA, and now the USA wanted to deport him. So they were looking at three countries. They were looking at Eswatini, they were looking at Ghana, they were looking at Uganda. All these three countries, including my country, Ghana, they refused to take this particular deportee, Abrego Garcia. And now they said, okay, if all of these countries are not taking them, why don't we talk to Burkina Faso to receive Abrego Garcia and other deportees, and let's have a deal. Perhaps we could recognize Burkina Faso leader Ibrahim Traoré as a real president, because he's not recognized by the UN, ECOWAS as a president, because he came to power through a coup d'etat, and he has since refused to step down. And the people said, we like him, he's doing a great job. So now US says, hey, Burkina Faso, we want you to accept deportees. So those who came to our country illegally, who have flaunted the rules, who are engaged in many issues, drugs, narcotics, kidnapping, and so forth, receive them. In exchange for what? Visa. We lift the visa ban on your country. We recognize that your president is a legitimate president. We grant your president a visa to come to the United States and enjoy himself, or perhaps give a speech at the UN General Assembly meeting. Guess what Captain Ibrahim Traoré said? He shut the door right in front of Donald Trump's face. Now, this article is coming from the Associated Press. The Associated Press is basically one of the most recognized and respected news outlets in the United States of America. Now, in here, their report says, Burkina Faso rejects proposal to accept deportees from the US. So let's read. And this particular person happened to be, I believe, the Burkina Faso's foreign minister. It says, Dakar, AP. Burkina Faso says it has refused a proposal from the Trump administration to accept deportees from the United States of America. Now, it goes on to read, the West African country was asked whether it will accept non-citizens expelled by the US in addition to its own nationals. Foreign Minister Karamoko Jean-Marie Traoré said Thursday on national television. Naturally, this proposal, which we deem indecent at the time, is totally contrary to the value of dignity, which is part of the very essence of the vision of Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Now, if it further goes on to say, okay, naturally, this proposal, which is deemed indecent at the time, is totally contrary to the value of dignity, which is part of the very essence of the vision of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, he said, referring to the country's military ruler. The remark came only a few hours after the U.S. Embassy in the capital, Ouagadougou, suspended most visas for Burkina Faso residents, redirecting applications to its embassy in the neighboring Togo. The embassy did not give a reason for that ban. So you see, this was the same tactics they used on Ghana, the U.S. used on Ghana, and they succeeded. So basically, the U.S. said Ghana should accept deportees. Initially, Ghana was hesitant of receiving this particular deportees. So what did they do? They didn't basically close down the embassy. They basically said, we are going to shut the door of people getting a 5-year visa, and that was going to affect the businessmen coming from Ghana. That was going to affect students. That was going to affect people traveling for bilateral meetings, international relations, a whole lot. Because then it means every 3 months you have to come and renew your visa. There's no 5 years multiple entry for you. So what happened? Ghana badged to say, hey, we are going to receive some of the deportees who are West African nationals, and in return, Ghana argued its case with the U.S. Secretary of State, and the visa ban, which was 3 years, which was scrapped from 5 years to 3 months, was lifted. So now Ghana is now enjoying the 5-year multiple entry visa in exchange to receiving deportees who are Ghanaians and also West African nationals who have overstayed in the United States of America. But then Burkina Faso Ibrahim Traoré is using a different playbook. He says that, see, we all of us are immigrants. Because if you look at the history of the world, people usually say I get this wrong. But then it started from, ancient Macedonia, Egypt, and all of those. Let's say life started somewhere from Asia, and we all migrated to the other parts of the world. Some came to Africa, some went to Asia, some went to the United States, and so forth. Okay. All of us are immigrants, but then over the years, we've kind of built these places that we evaded as our homes. Now, Captain Ibrahim Traoré believes that no matter what, if a person comes into your country and is an immigrant, Captain Ibrahim Traoré believes that you should see that person as a guest and treat that person with respect and dignity. And Captain Ibrahim Traoré believes that the Trump administration basically is not treating these people right. Because if you're an immigrant, they arrest you, they charge you, they deport you without due process in most cases. And Captain Ibrahim Traoré said that these things that are being done to immigrants, not just from Africa or Burkina Faso, but from various parts of the world in the United States of America, it's not dignified enough. It doesn't show dignity to our fellow human beings. So, when the request came that Burkina Faso, the US want you to accept the people who have overstayed, or Burkinabés who have overstayed in America for so long, Burkina Faso said no. And look at the playbook of the United States of America. They did not first of all convey this message to the Burkina Faso government. They started by closing down the embassy in Burkina Faso, saying that if you're in Burkina Faso, you want to travel to the United States of America, you have to go to Togo embassy to apply for the visa and do everything there. So now it was like, it is a playbook. So we take your visa, we close your embassy. So now you are found wanting. We've put you in a box. You can't do anything. Then what do? We give you the option. Hey, do you know what? Take deportees, and then we bring back your embassy, or we restore embassy operations in your country. But Burkina Faso Ibrahim Traoré said, hell no. You want to close down your embassy in Burkina Faso, Ouagadougou, okay? Or what's the capital of Burkina Faso? Please give me. You want to close down the embassy in Burkina Faso? Feel free, be my guest. But then if you want to close it, don't come to me and tell me that, hey, I want you to take deportees whilst you've closed down the embassy and want to use that as what? a measuring stick or perhaps as a bait, okay, or as a tool for negotiation, it's not going to work. So Burkina Faso said, we are not going to receive any deportees. Those Burkinabes who have overstayed in America, we won't receive them. Neither will we receive any Asian, any South American, or any West African in our country. It doesn't exist. So basically, if US defies these orders, before the plane will even try to land in Burkina Faso, it will be shut down. That is how serious it is. Now, let's continue this particular thing. It says that the remark came only a few hours after the U.S. embassy in the capital, Ouagadougou, so Burkina Faso's capital is Ouagadougou, suspended most visa services for Burkina Faso residents, redirecting the applicants to its embassy in neighboring Togo. The embassy did not give a reason for the move. Okay, citing a U.S. diplomatic note accusing Burkinabe nationals of not complying with visa usage rules, Karamoko Jean-Marie Traoré called the move a possible pressure tactic and said Burkina Faso is an of dignity, not deportation. So let's read it. It says Burkina Faso is a land of dignity, not deportation. So their foreign minister is saying that, see, closing down your tactics and saying we should receive deportees, it is not something that the Burkina Faso government believes in. And we believe that this particular measure coming from the United States of America is a pressure tactics. And it's not going to work because Burkina Faso is a land of dignity, not deportation. Now, it further goes on to say, the U.S. Embassy in Ouagadougou and the Department of Homeland Security did not immediately respond to a request for comment. More than 40 deportees have been sent to Africa since July after the Trump administration struck largely secretive agreements with at least 5 African nations to take migrants under a new third country deportation program. Rights groups and others have protested the program. So as we are saying that, as we were saying earlier on, Trump administration had gone into agreement with many countries. Eswatini is one, Ghana is one, Uganda is one, and other countries. 5 other countries. And then Associated Press is saying that these agreements were secretive because if they made the details of this known, the citizens of those countries will protest. So then, like Ghana, we had an agreement with the Trump administration, it is cool, we are just receiving Ghanaians who have overstayed. They make it seem sweet, but then the details of these particular deals with the Trump administration is shady, it's mercury, and it stinks. Now, let's move on. It says the U.S. has sent deportees to the small African nations Eswatini, South Sudan, Rwanda, and Ghana. It has also an agreement with Uganda through no deportations, though no deportations have been announced. 6 deportees are still detained in an unspecified facility in South Sudan, while Rwanda hasn't said where it is holding 7 deportees. 11 of the 14 deportees sent to Ghana last month sued the government there and holding them in what they describe as terrible conditions at a military camp at the outskirts of the capital, Accra. So now basically those who were sent to our country, my country, Ghana, they sued the government saying that, the agreement was to deport them to Africa, Ghana, and allow them to live here. But then when they came here, they were subjected to military confinement. So they sent them to our military camp, which is Burma camp, and they held them there. And they asked them, where are you from? Where are you originally from? Oh, I'm originally from Guinea. Okay. And I migrated to America. Okay. Then they put the person on a plane to Guinea. Where are you from? Nigeria. And I went to America and they take the person to Nigeria. So the people thought they were coming to Ghana to start life over or start life afresh. But then they were detained and deported back to their country of origin. Now, let's move on here. It further goes on to say that these countries or these deportees from America have sued the Ghanaian government for, these kind of practices which they said is inhumane, which they are saying that is basically inhumane. Now, let's move on. It says, Human Rights Watch said last month the Trump administration offered financial incentives to some African countries to accept deportees. The rights camp group said it reviewed written agreements showing Eswatini will receive $5.1 million in U.S. funding for migration and border management, while Rwanda will receive $7.5 million. So according to the Associated Press, this receiving of migrants is not something which is new. It's been there, but the Trump administration is also giving financial incentives that apart from we lifting the visa ban on your country, what we will also do is simple. We will give you money. You can use to support yourself. So a country like Eswatini is receiving 5.1 million, and a country like Rwanda is receiving $7.5 million from the US to accept deportees. But Burkina Faso is saying, we don't need your money. We don't need the deportees. You want to close? You've suspended our embassy in Ouagadougou, our capital, the capital of Burkina Faso. Fine, so be it. US, take whatever you want. We are good. Thank you. Now, I don't know if this move from Burkina Faso and Ibrahim Traoré should be applauded. But basically, a lot of people are saying that it just shows how, smart, okay, this particular country, Burkina Faso, is or has become. And basically, they are just acting, I don't know, they are saying that, hey, we won't be coward. We wouldn't be what? Our rights wouldn't be trumped on because of visa. Hell no, we wouldn't do that. And this is a lot of things, or this is just one of those things that a lot of African countries are